Hello everyone. In previous class we are done with the exchange and Wheeling model. So in today's class we are going to complete the product life cycle theory, competitive advantage theory and the economies of scale theory. So this is just an overview of these theories, not a complete explanation. So the product life cycle theory is introduced by Raymond Venon in the year of 1956. So he focused on the product, puts less emphasis on the comparative cost and increased emphasis on the technology's impact on the product cost. And he explains about the international investment too. Okay. So when I used two technology based propositions here, technical innovations leading to a new and profitable products requires large quantities of the capital and the skilled labor. The product and the method of manufacture go through the different stages of the production. So this is what the two based propositions of the technologies. Okay, so we'll see what are the stages of the maturation. So stages of the product life cycle. The phase one, product is produced and consumed only in the innovating country. So in the country where it is first introduced, only there it is produced and consumed. In the phase two, production is perfected in the innovating country and increased rapidly to accommodate rising demand at the home and abroad. So now the company is expands its business for the foreign countries also. And in the phase 3, the product becomes more or less standardized. Here the product is become standardized one, and innovative firm may find it profitable to license other domestic and foreign firms. So the licensing will be given to other domestic and foreign firms to manufacture the product. Thus the imitating country starts producing the product for the domestic consumption. So the licensing is provided. So when the other companies known about the productions or the production process of these all things, they are going to produce a competitive product too. Okay, so in any product or in any market, if they are increased to maturity stage, then the competitors will come to play in that particular market. Phase 4, the imitating country begins to undersell the innovating country in the third markets. Okay, so now imitating country or the competitors are taking the place of the innovative countries products. Okay, the market share is decreasing right now. So this is what the phase 4. Okay, usually in the uh, expanded market, in the foreign market and all, they are going to take the place. And phase 5, the imitating country starts understanding the innovating countries in the latest market as well. Okay, in the home market as well, even in the uh, foreign market as well, they are going to undersell this innovating country. Okay, so that means market share of the innovating country is decreasing in the phase 5. Production moves to low cost production locations. Okay, so now the production will be moved to the low cost production locations because of the competition. So in the graph we can see there are two types of the curves. Okay, the curves of the innovating country and the curves of the imitating country. So in the innovating country, at the beginning, phase 1, we can see there is no exports at all. In the phase 2, the exports are increasing, and in the phase 3, the export is increased to is the highest level. Okay, in the phase 4, we can see the exports are decreasing, and in the phase 5, we can see it as our exports are almost stopped and imports are increased. So the same case of imitating country, in the phase 1 there is no imports at all. Okay, and in the phase 2 the imports are a little bit increasing, and in the phase 3 the imports are decreasing. Okay, in the phase 3 the imports are decreasing because in the maturity stage the innovating country will give the licenses to produce these type of the products to other companies. Okay, and in the phase 4 we can see the imports are nil and the exports are becoming more, because once this type of the products procedure is known to other companies, then they are going to produce the similar or the competitive products, so that the innovating country's product will lose its market share. So this is what the product life cycle model. We'll go for the national competitive advantage. Why does a nation achieve a success in an international level in a particular industry? Why are the firms based in a particular nation able to create a sustained competitive advantage against the global competitors in a particular field? So if we got the answers for this, we can understand what type of the products to export and what to import. So this particular theory is given by the Porter in the year of 1990. So he conducted a comprehensive study of 100 industries in 10 nations to learn what leads to success. And he believes that the standard classical theories on the comparative cost advantage provides only a partial explanation, and they do not say why these countries are more productive compared to others. Okay, a nation attains a competitive advantage if its firms are competitive only. Okay, so when the companies are the competitive one, then the company can or the country can export their products to the other countries. Innovations, either technical improvements to the product or the production process innovation is observed by the Porter. So he's given the 4 diamonds, the diamonds of the national advantages. So how to get the competitive advantage? He has given these 4 diamonds. So factor conditions, it is nothing but the factors of productions, and demand conditions, related and supporting industries, and forms of strategy and structure and the rivalry. And remember, these 4 aspects can be controlled by the government. Okay. So in fact, there are 5 diamonds of Porter's strategies of the competitive advantage. There are 5 factors which is influencing that: factors, conditions, demand conditions, relative and supporting industries, firms, strategy, structure and rivalry, and the government intervention also. So factor conditions, key factors of the productions are specialized or advanced factors like skilled labor, capital and infrastructures are created, not inherited. So the country should create these skilled labor and capital and infrastructure. Then non-key factors, that is the basic factors like unskilled laborers can obtain by any firm or do not generate a sustained competitive advantage. Okay, so non-skilled labor can be imported from anywhere. It will not generate the sustained competitive advantage. Lack of resources actually helps the countries to become the competitive. So when there is a lack of resources, the countries are going to find a new alternatives for that particular resources, so that that becomes more competitive, like Switzerland, Japan, Sweden and all. The demand conditions, sophisticated domestic market is the important element in producing the competitiveness. The market makes firms to sell superior products as the market demands a high quality. So the company should produce the high quality products since the market is demanding the high quality products. Closeness to such consumers enables the firm to learn the needs and desires of the consumers. So here the needs and desires of the consumers is also observed. Okay, the same thing is also argued by the product life cycle theory. Helps the firm to competitive in the global market. The demand conditions will help the firms to compete in the global market. Related and supporting industries, a set of a strong related and supporting industries is important to the competitiveness of the firm. It includes suppliers and related industries. Okay, so the local suppliers cluster and the producers. Okay, it's like upstream and downstream of the industries, and that will add to the innovations too. Okay, so related and supporting industries also plays very important role. Then forms a strategy. So the strategy is regarding investment plans, use of labor force, all depends on the country's capital market and the labor market. The structure of the particular company, like a management styles and ownership and operational strategy, these all things will help. And rivalry or the competitions, intense competitions and all will also affect the imports. So here is a chart. So as I said, the government can influence all these 4. We'll go for the next theory, that is economies of the scale or the imperfect competition and international trade. This is given by T.J. Joseph. Based on the international trade theories are here, the classical theories and the new trade theories. So classical theory says difference in the resource availability or the resource productivity, where the new trade theory says economies of scale. Okay, comparative advantage assuming a perfect competition, and in the new trade theory imperfect competition. Constant diminishing return to scale and increasing return to scale under the new trade theories. So this Economies of scale theory will comes under the modern viewpoint. The new trade theory emerged in 1970s by a number of economists. Okay, so countries do not necessarily specialize and trade solely to take the advantage of their differences in the resource endowments or the technology. They also trade because of increasing returns that makes specialization advantageous in some industries. New trade theorists introduced industrial organization view into the trade theory and include the real life imperfect competition in the international trade. So as you know, the perfect competition is not possible, and that is why in the imperfect competition market era, what type of the products should be exported and what type of the products should be imported. So that is mentioned under the new trade theory. The economies of scale and international trade. Economies of scale means reduction of the average cost as a result of increasing the output. Okay, so that is the level of the output where our the average cost is very less. Okay, so in case when we have the economies of the scale, then only we should export it if it is needed or if there is a demand in the international market. Okay, how do they achieve the economies of scale? The first mover advantage. So how to achieve the economies of scale? The first mover advantage should be the new trade theory suggests that a country may predominate in the export of the goods simply because it was lucky enough to have one or more firms among the first to produce that particular good. Okay, so any company will succeed when it is trying to create a habit or it is trying to give a new product. The first mover's ability to benefit from increasing returns creates a barriers to entry. Okay, so in case of the first mover's ability will create the barriers to entry or else will create the monopoly in that particular aspects. So examples are Microsoft operating systems, Apple iPods, Google's, etc. So theory of imperfect competitions, a few major producers will be there and the differentiated products will be there. Firm is a price setter and not a price taker here. The firm is going to select the price. Okay, firm is going to fix the price, not the price taker. So what is given by its customers, it is not going to take. They are going to fix the price. Firm can sell more only by reducing their prices. Okay, so downward sloping demand curve should be there when the prices are less, sales will increase or the demand will increase. Okay, so here is a monopolistic competition and a trade. This one you have already studied, and this also will affect the international trade. Economies of scale and comparative advantage. So while we have the economies of scale and comparative advantage, there is the two countries like a Japan and India, and steel and rice is the two products. Suppose steel is a monopolistic competitive sector, each farm product is differentiated from the others. The Japan will still the net exporter of steel and the importer of the rice. Okay, so in case Japan has a less average cost in producing the steel and the more average cost in producing the rice, so the Japan will export the steel and they import the rice. So that's it for today's class. For the reference, you can check these all books.